Check out the hovercraft. Pity this thing is built out of Legos. If we had the real thing, I could play with it in the bathtub. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. And to wrap up our month of LEGO G.I. Joe builds, I'm taking a look at the one that, hands down, got the most recommendations. This is the Night Striker. The Night Striker is basically a repaint of the originally released Killer W.H.A.L.E. hovercraft that was done as a store exclusive for Toys R Us. Now, some of you may wonder about the purpose of store exclusives and then what all goes on with it. Store exclusives are basically things that are set up where the stores make a special arrangement with the manufacturer to give them something special so as to draw customers in. And G.I. Joe has long been no stranger to having store exclusives. Because even in the first year of G.I. Joe's release for the Real American Hero line, they had an exclusive playset sold at Sears stores. Now, the thing is about these exclusives is the fact that the manufacturer is going to spend as little money on it as humanly possible, so they can maximize their own profits. So the playset, the Missile Command Headquarters, was made entirely of cardboard. Its biggest selling feature was the fact that it had all 3 Cobra figures that were available at that time. The Officer and the Cobra Trooper could easily be bought at retail, but since they weren't put in as many in a case like the hero characters, they were somewhat hard to find. And in 1982, Cobra Commander was a mail-away figure. But this was a way you could get all 3 at once. During the years, Sears would also get other exclusives with G.I. Joe, which would include a pair of 2-packs of vehicles for the Dreadnoks, a reissue of the Vamp with the Hal laser cannon, and also a pair of vehicles made for the Crimson Guard. After that, Hasbro did their exclusives with Toys R Us, which would include a special pack of figures that were sent to a special mission in Brazil, and also Night Force. Night Force was meant to be a strike team that operated in the darkness. The figures for Night Force all consisted of characters that had been released the prior year, so all of them would still be on the shelves as well. Plus, they were also sold in a 2-pack, so some kids may have had a hard time convincing mom and dad to buy them, since they might have one of the figures already, and mom and dad may not feel the need to buy the 2-pack to get a figure they already have. But on the vehicle front, many of the vehicles for Night Force had been released years prior and were off the shelves by then. So, in a way, the vehicles were the better buy, since if you missed out on it on the first time, you could get it now. But consequently, since Night Force was only available in one retail chain, they are very rare to find today. Now, of course, I bought the Night Striker here as one of the last vehicles to get from G1er before they closed their business. I ended up choosing the Night Striker over the Killer W.H.A.L.E, partially due to the fact it was $10 cheaper. but also due to the fact that apparently they were all out of killer whales. So, to ensure that I could build one eventually, I bought the Night Striker. Yeah, this Lego built version of it, unfortunately, will not float like the original one did. But it does have a set of wheels underneath it, so that it does allow it to roll and glide over different areas. The hovercraft skirt is an entirely solid piece, since Lego did do a hovercraft model many years ago. So it does not have the launch mechanism for the watercraft. However, it does have it stored underneath. And we will take a look at the sea skimmer a little later in the video. But I definitely want you all to see that it does include the main cannons, and they can be elevated. We have the rotating machine gun turrets. They also can be elevated. They are empty because, unfortunately, they're a little too small for figures to fit in. And unfortunately, there's really not much that can be done to improve that. And of course, we have the missile box. And each missile box has 4 missiles for a grand total of 8. And of course, over here on the opposite side, we have the depth charge launcher, and it works just like it does on the toy. You just lower the lever and out they go. And then of course here on the other side, it also has the surveillance bike, and we'll take a look at it here in a moment as well, because I want to show off the other feature the vehicle has, as it does have the troop carrying compartment. Just raise up that section, and then we fold this out, and you now have a deployment ramp for your figures to disembark. On the real toy, you could use this to actually store your figures inside, because it did have some foot pegs inside it. But unfortunately, on this Lego model, it's not really that well built to hold minifigures inside it. I mean, it can, but it doesn't really do it very well. You just end up doing it like most. Instead of using the foot pegs, many people just threw their figures inside there haphazardly and called it a day. But it's intended to basically carry a 4-man assault team. But it is nice that they included that as a bonus play feature. And of course, also here at the back, the fans can be spun. And we do have adjustable vanes. These aren't particularly as fragile as they are on the real toy. So now we'll take a look at the bonus vehicles. We'll start with the surveillance bike. It's done up pretty simple. It's based off of a Japanese Moto 2 scooter. Anime fans who have seen the classic series You're Under Arrest will be familiar with that model, since a similar one is used by Natsumi as her pursuit vehicle. Since it's so small, it can be folded up and carried in the trunk of the police car. I believe some models of Honda included one, so that way you had that as an option. Well, unfortunately, this vehicle will not easily make a Lego guy look decent on it, but we can get a Creon to look half decent on it. Remember, I said half decent. I didn't say it'd be perfect. Well, there we are. We got a Recondo figure. He'll do. He's not Night Force, but he'll do for the purposes of this video. Otherwise, it doesn't look too bad on there, but the way his legs are, it does make him look rather silly on it. But then again, seeing as Lego guys can't spread their legs apart, the Lego guys would look even worse. And then we have the Sea Skimmer. Now, while it's a shame we can't launch it like it could be on the real toy, this is actually pretty good. It's also pretty basic, but with what it was, you really couldn't expect much. And I got a Lego diver here. We'll just use him. We'll just use him as the driver. You just lay him in there, and well, he'd probably look better if he didn't wear his flippers. Get the flippers off, and there we go. Now he looks more like he knows what he's doing. That was, again, a nice added play feature. Of course, I added my own details to this toy. I made some Night Force figures for it. So we'll show them off to you here now. Here we have Falcon, or Lieutenant Falcon, depending on how you want to address him. This toy was released as Falcon, but he was frequently addressed with his rank in the movie. I was fortunate enough to track down a custom Lego piece here to give him the radio backpack. Just haven't had enough time to paint it up so it'd be in the black color that it needs to be, but this is a relatively decent rendition of Falcon. And then, of course, next to him, while I haven't made any of his accessories yet, we have Sneak Peek. Should have given him an M16 rifle out of my stock of Lego weapons, but just hadn't taken the time, and I haven't designed his periscope. Interesting fact for those of you who are not as big of G.I. Joe fans, Sneak Peek's real name is Owen King. He was named after Stephen King's son. So apparently at the time, Owen King was a big G.I. Joe fan. So it must have been a thrill for him to have a figure named after him. Of course, in the unlikely event Stephen King or Owen King are watching this video, drop me a line and I'll tell you how I made this figure. And next up here, I made another Night Force guy. This is Shockwave. I was fortunate enough to find a gun similar to one that he comes with. And it took a little effort, but I did find a balaclava face in black. It doesn't look too bad, but it was expensive, so Not going to see too many shockwaves anytime soon. And the last guy, he's not a G.I. Joe guy at all. Well, he's based off of a character I enjoyed. This is patterned off of Duke Nukem from the video games. When they did an action figure line of him in the late 90s and such, they did a version of him that was for night missions. A Night Strike Duke. So I just couldn't resist it, especially since I was able to find some pieces pretty similar. I mean, we got the face with the sunglasses and the cocky sneer. I went with the thug-like hat on him instead of the ball cap. Decided against giving him night vision goggles because the last game kind of implied that his night vision goggles were incorporated in his shades, so we just went with that. The rifle's relatively close to what came with the figure, but I also found a trench knife like the toys all came with, so despite the fact in the games we never used a knife, his melee weapon was to kick people, so why in the world the toy company gave him a knife is beyond me, but at any rate, it's just a fun addition I thought I could add. But all in all, I'm very impressed with how this vehicle turned out. It's definitely expensive because this was $100 vehicle. The regular Killer Whale goes for $110. But all in all, it turned out very well. I'm very pleased and impressed with how it did and how well it incorporates practically everything that its real counterpart had. But let me know what you all think. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section down below.